What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Sports Talk on Tap podcast. We're here. You can find daily videos Monday through Friday covering all the four major sports leagues, whether that be NHL, NBA, MLB, or NFL, games, news, highlights, all that fun stuff. It's the middle of the week, different kind of ranking. Obviously, Team USA wrapped up their basketball. And, the biggest news right now is we're just getting kind of, schedule highlights, opening nights, Christmas Day games, Nick, which should be exciting. Obviously, Celtics as the champs, one of the biggest markets, getting a lot of recognition, but so are my Timberwolves on opening night and Christmas. So that should be fun to watch, and I'll be excited. But with that being said, Nick, you came up with this idea, who will be the most impactful players this upcoming season. And, obviously, we're not going to aim for, superstars, but just guys that can fit a role perfectly on their team or, help elevate their team. Maybe it's a new addition, whatever, however you want to do this, just they'll have a big impact on their team this upcoming season. And Nick, I'm curious where you go with this, but should be very exciting. I don't know who you want to start first, me or you. Maybe we have some of the same, maybe we don't, but I'm always curious.
We probably do have some of the same. I'll start first, though, just to kind of maybe set the precedent for what we're going to be doing. I've got a few guys, but the guy I want to start with, I think, is really going to be like the definition of impactful player. He's not like a major superstar, but I think he's going to impact winning like crazy on his team. I'm going to say Alex Caruso. The Thunder were already a very, very good team. Maybe had a few small holes / experience, lack of experience, which is, that's just going to come with a young team. And now that you add a veteran like Alex Caruso, who has been there before, knows how to, win in playoff games, and is a really good defender, I think that's going to elevate OKC to, a top 3 seed at very least. Like, they're probably the favorites to be the 1 seed in the West, I would say. Maybe them or the Timberwolves. I think I picked the Timberwolves just because I do like the Timberwolves a little bit better, maybe, roster-wise and how they work together in their overall defense. But if we're talking defense, like Alex Caruso, that Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso trade, I think is going to work out primo for the Oklahoma City Thunder. They've got plenty of young talent, Chet Holmgren, Shea. Like, I think those guys are all going to gel very well together, and Caruso is going to have a huge impact on that team.
Yeah, Nick, I'm disappointed in you because you took my guy, Caruso, who's on my list. But he, like you said, he fits all the things Josh Giddey didn't. He can shoot the 3 at a consistent rate, or just more so than Josh Giddey, and plays great defense where Josh Giddey just does not play defense. So you ultimately get better on both ends. A guy who just fits with the team more, can play off ball, let Shai Gilgeous-Alexander be that main point guard, and then, you just kind of do your thing. And that will just be the sum. And Caruso is going to be a perfect role player right in there, play amazing defense on the perimeter, him and SGA, because SGA himself in his own right, despite being a great offensive player, can hold his own on defense. And then you bring, into the paint where you got Chet and Hartenstein. It's going to be tough for teams to score, but it should be fun to watch. And overall, just excited to see, Caruso with this team. He, was a thorn in the Timberwolves side just for a couple of games last year with the Bulls. One game, I think he shot like 6 for 6 from 3. So, that pissed me off. Hopefully he doesn't do that again. But, with that being said, obviously definitely one of the most impactful players. And then for me now, I'm going to head over to a team that obviously had a lot of question marks, but they made a signing recently, like in the last week or so, or maybe a little bit over a week. Just a cheap year, veteran minimums deal. But Tyus Jones is going to the Phoenix Suns. And I think Phoenix finally has a point guard, starting level caliber, that can just play without the ball, or that can, have the ball in his hands. One of the best assist to turnover ratios in the history of the NBA, Tyus Jones, that is. And just a guy that can do a little bit of everything, obviously can play make, can shoot the ball if he needs to, and just kind of play off of everybody. And this will be finally a great fit the Suns did a great job with the minimal money they had to go out and, get key contribution players. Because obviously Booker, as great as he is, he's not really a point guard, he was forced to play last year. Same with Bradley Beal at points. And overall, it just, was disappointing for Phoenix, but one of their obvious clear weaknesses was the point guard problem, and they didn't have anyone to, help Booker or Kevin Durant by taking their ball in the hands, because it was always them, and they were always dealing with pressure, and that's ultimately what forced them to get swept, where Devin Booker had Jay McDaniels just following him with the ball 24/7, and up until the final game where, credit to Booker, he did drop 50 trying to, go out swinging. They still lost. And before that, he was really inefficient. And part of that was just because they were relying on him so much with the ball in his hands, and same with Bradley Beal. So, at the end of the day, I think getting a guy like Tyus Jones, who's been a veteran around this league, and there's a reason why, even though it was never true and I never believed it, but there was that thing was the Grizzlies were better without Ja Morant. And that was because their record was so good, because Tyus Jones could just fill in and be that guy to just play the role of, passing the ball around to teammates, letting them cook. And, if it comes to him, he'll hit his shots. And, for such a vet minimum deal, that's insane value, because Tyus Jones is a starting level point guard in this league, and he's going to get a lot of run with Phoenix. I think he's going to be that starter. Him, Booker, KD, Beal, and then, their center, Nurkic. I think overall, this team, adding Monte Morris to be a backup point guard, could be something. If he, recovers from that injury he suffered last season. I think, this team got some good minimum point guard deals with the second apron they have. So overall, that was one of the best signings, and I really wanted him as well. He's so good.
Okay, I got you. I mean, when you can get those, obviously impactful players for, such cheap deals, that if you can buy, a winning culture for that cheap, it's always going to be an incredible deal for the team. So good pick. But I'm going to kind of go, that same ideal that I just said. You could call this player maybe a superstar, maybe a little bit he's maybe a little bit past that, but I still think he's not, he's not what he used to be, but he's going to still be a greatly impactful player on this team. Pretty obvious answer, but I'm going to go Chris Paul. We talked about this. I think we had an episode about it, just how Chris Paul is going to impact Wemby's development, the Spurs' development as a team. Obviously, they brought in Stephon Castle, who you could argue he's going to be one of the more impactful players, depending on how good he is and how well his game translates into the NBA in his first year. But we talked about it so much, how Chris Paul just helps his team win more games wherever he goes. If you're a 40-win team, he can make you a 50-win team. In this case, the Spurs were what? They had what? Like 25, 30 wins. So he can maybe make them from a 25-win to a 35-win team, which is, you look at it, you say that's still bad, but that's, 10 wins is a huge improvement for a team as bad as the Spurs were last year. So, and more so, you're looking for a veteran to help Wemby develop into a true professional, because he's still 19 years old, 20 years old. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think he's 19. But you're just looking for a guy that helps him get better and better. You're not looking for somebody who's kind of going to come in and help you win 55 games, because that realistically isn't going to happen. You're not going to go from what you were last year to a top team. And so the Chris Paul signing to me is perfect. I love that for his sake. He could have gone the, ring chasing route where he signs like a minimum deal with one of these loaded rosters and just rides his way to an NBA finals. But instead he decided, no, I'm going to go to a team that needs a veteran, needs some leadership, needs some development, and help them develop. And I think it's going to do nothing but positively impact Chris Paul's overall legacy, because when he, looks back in 5-10 years when he's out of the league and Wemby's probably a top 2 player in the league, he can say, I was a huge part in developing this kid. Like, he can say that with pride, because that's a thing to take pride in, is helping the young superstars become who they are, because they can't just do it on their own. As good as they are, they still need some sort of guidance. So I'm going to say Chris Paul, not for the winning more so than the developing impact.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. And, if the Spurs, want to take a leap, he's obviously going to be a big reason for that. Just mentorship. It's going to be more be off the court, stuff that will help the mental aspect of the game. That could even be helpful more on the court. And like I said, and 100% agree. Well, Chris Paul's best thing for his legacy is going to be to realize the elevation he had to teams and the confidence and boost he gave teams throughout his career. Anywhere he went that 1 year with the Thunder to help build up SGA at the start of his career, going to Phoenix, really building up Booker and Ian, and taking them to the finals, being the number 1 seed. And then, after that, just what can he do with San Antonio in a second year of Victor Wembanyama? It'll be very interesting the way he was able to lift the Clippers, Hornets before that. So I think this is only going to help his career. And like you said, looking back, his biggest thing is going to be impact. And I'm very excited to see, as long as he's on the court and healthy, what he can be for this team. Next, I'm going to go. I've never been the biggest fan of him, more so because I think, I just never really liked his game on the offensive end, especially. But I think this guy is going to have to have some sort of impact if the team were to take a step back to being really good, like we expect for the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm going to go Marcus Smart. I think when we look at Memphis last year, just disappointing as a whole. John Morant, the suspension, all that. Marcus Smart injury, Jaren Jackson injury, Desmond Bane injuries. But there were still some glimpses. We saw them, Gigi Jackson have a great rookie year. They get a top 10 pick to get Zach Edey to pair next to Jaren Jackson Jr. And Nick, I think the Grizzlies are due to bounce back. We have both had them around the top 5 in our seedings. And I think Marcus Smart has something to prove because, as much as he's loved in Boston, if I'm him, I'm looking at it like, shit, they traded me away. Next season, 64 wins, championship, only 3 losses in their path. I'm like, I got something to prove that I'm still, the guy, and they should, regret trading me. And, he's got to do that with this Memphis team. And I think, he's got to make an impact. He knows his role on the team. You have Desmond Bane, Ja, all those guys. You just got to be a guy that plays defense hard, can grab some rebounds, try and make some plays and hit some shots, but not shot chuck like he normally does with the Celtics, and just fit into a role. This Memphis team is still a lot younger, than the Celtics with some of their players. So I think just kind of let guys figure out their roles, especially with Ja coming back after basically missing a whole year. Desmond Bane, just be that leader, like a Chris Paul off the court, more so. That will help, but he also has a good amount of value still on the court, especially with his defense. If he, makes that the number 1 priority and, just hit his shots if he's open and, not forcing anything, that'll be huge for them this upcoming year in Memphis's bounce back.
All right. Good picks. There's 2 players I really want to go, but I don't know if I can call them impact players more so. Like they're pretty much like borderline superstars, but they're not. I don't think they're exactly superstars, so I don't know if I can put them. And I don't want to, just have a run on list. So
okay, just say it.
Okay, I'll just say the 2 players, but I'll say like which one I'll get into more because one of them's like way more obvious. The 2 players I was going to say is my guy DeMar DeRozan, the guy I've been high on, pretty much since he signed with the Kings, and then the other one was going to be Drew Holiday. But I feel like that's pretty much since the Celtics have won this championship, like that's been the most obvious impact player probably in the league.
He's
he
one of the most
literally got him
impactful
a
players.
Championship as soon as he got there. So I really that one doesn't really need explaining. As for DeMar DeRozan, I just think he's gonna be that again, another huge veteran guy that a lot of these teams who are trying to win probably need, an experienced veteran guy who's won before. Obviously, he hasn't been to the finals, but he has 25,000 points. That speaks for itself. So I think he's going to elevate that offense. Is really what's going to be his biggest impact. And when you can elevate that offense, make Sabonis better, make De'Aaron Fox better, have Malik Monk coming off the bench, so that's going to help you. I think I am still super high on the Kings. I think I had them at like the 5 seed, which I'm pretty sure was pretty higher than you had them. But I think DeMar DeRozan is going to have a huge impact. I think that's a great spot for him where he doesn't have to be the number one guy. It's kind of like what we saw with Drew Holiday, where in Milwaukee, he was looked at more so as like maybe the number 2, kind of number 3, depending on if Chris Middleton played, but they relied on him on offense a lot. So he put up good numbers in Milwaukee, but like when he came to Boston, I think he said how he was like almost way more comfortable just not having to be the, relied on scoring option rather than he just is relied on to guard the other team's best player. And that's what he's comfortable doing. And he can do that on any given night. It's not like you have where shooting, you'll have maybe a bad night. On defense, your game doesn't really go away. So I think DeMar DeRozan is going to kind of have that effect. I don't think DeMar DeRozan is obviously a Jrue Holiday type defender, but the fact that he can be that's a great third scoring option, in my opinion. DeMar DeRozan being your third scoring option, you're going to be a pretty solid offense. So that'll be my last pick. Call it, a superstar pick if you want, but I still think it's going to be really impactful.
No, and that's 100% true. DeMar DeRozan is going to need to have an impact for this Kings team that's just in such a juggernaut of a conference, maybe the best it's ever been, to make it, through. And overall, should be very excited what they do. Obviously 2 years ago, top 3 seed, I believe 49 wins, and then past year fall short, run it back, and it's clear why you can't just run it back and never be satisfied. And so it'll be very interesting if the Kings do take a leap. It's going to be because of DeMar, because we kind of know what De'Aaron Fox is, really, around borderline top 10 point guard. We know what Domantas Sabonis is, very underrated triple-double machine. Should be exciting, though, to see, what the Kings do this upcoming year as still, a very flashy team, and get back to that octane offense that they do have. And DeMar DeRozan finally out of Chicago. I'm happy for him on that end. My last player, going to be, maybe a little bit cheating because it's but he's going to need to fit a role on my team if he wants to, if this team wants to be, something like the Timberwolves high expectations are for. And that's going to be Terrence Shannon Jr. And, obviously Rob Dillon was the easiest pick. But, I kind of know Rob will get some run. And I know he's kind of, as a 19-year-old, is going to have some growing pains. He's going to have his ups and downs. But, I know he's going to get a lot of run. And, I think he'll end up being a really good player. But, he's still going to be 19 rookie. I'm not, having too high of expectations for him. But the guy I'm going to go to is the other guy that they took in the first round, and that's going to be Terrence Shannon Jr., small forward from Illinois. He's already 24 years old, one of the oldest prospects. He was a certified bucket at Illinois. In summer league, he was a bucket, getting like 17 points per game. Very efficient, can attack the basket. And he's basically that fat forward, can be a little versatile in defense. He's basically taken up that Kyle Anderson role. I don't expect him to be as good as Kyle Anderson on defense, but hopefully he'll be better on offense because Kyle Anderson's last season here, he was not very good at all at shooting the three, wasn't even a threat, couldn't really attack. It was just nothing was falling for him. But still, Kyle Anderson played a lot of minutes and was still one of the Timberwolves' highest valued players that they lost in free agency. So someone's going to need to make up that role, and I think it perfectly fits Terrence Shannon. And I'm hoping, from what I've seen, obviously at college and even the summer league, that he can play that role. Just be efficient, however that much be, like 15 minutes a night, if that's all that takes, or they ease him in 10, however little it is, that he can just hold his own on the defensive end and get a bucket when he needs to. I'm very excited to see what he does because the team is going to be relying on some rookies like Rob and Terrence, who I think will be really good. But Terrence more so now because he is one of those older prospects where he kind of just fit right in and be a instant, positive to the team or negative. I'm obviously hoping it's going to be a positive, but, figured, if this team wants to go anywhere and they have the expectations they do, someone like Terrence Shannon's going to need to obviously be a positive impact on this team, especially with the Kyle Anderson role. So that's my last pick. It wouldn't be an NBA podcast without me bringing up my Timberwolves. So, but I do truly believe it. So I'll go with that as my last pick for a guy that's going to need to be one of the most impactful players.
I like the love for the rookies. I was thinking about doing Rob Dillingham, but I figured he would kind of be on your list, as a Timberwolves fan. So I didn't throw that on.
He is
the veteran guy.
I just have more so immediate impact Terrence Shannon, just given his age and his style of play. They're not going to be asking, like, he can have the ball in his hands, but play a lot of off ball. Rob, he's kind of, going to be that backup. So he's going to have a lot of, he's going to have a lot to learn. He's going to have some things. Like, I'm not going to, complain he's going through rough stretches because he's 19. He's also going to have his good stretches. It's just going to be, the way it is as a 20-year-old in the NBA. So he'll have overall, I think, a good impact, but I'm expecting Shannon at least immediately to have more of a positive, better impact for the team.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely understand that.
That makes sense. Yeah. But obviously, different story. But with that being said, let us know in the comments what you guys agree, disagree with. Who are some of your most impactful players for this upcoming season that, aren't necessarily, superstars or even stars around this league, just guys that you think will help make a positive impact on their teams, because ultimately that's the goal, is just to keep winning and, hopefully win that championship, because that's what every team wants to do. But with that being said, as always, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. We'll catch you next one. Peace out.